Hey, what's up? My name is JM Chaley and welcome to my channel. This month we're going to do a creature spotlight on the Sidhe, but there's a bonus. There's going to be another creature involved, another being, another thing. So before I get into that, you have to understand that the Sidhe are more than what they seem. Their history, their origins are very mysterious, and the folklore is mostly in sync with, in agreement with their origins and histories, but it's tainted by things. It's been affected by things, and I'm going to get into that too. So let's start with the Sidhe themselves, of course, right? Who were the Sidhe? What are the Sidhe? Well, they're beings, and sometimes I've seen them compared to elves. You know, Irish elves, if you think about like how elves are depicted in the original Germanic or Norse sense, these kind of underground living fae-like creatures, that's a fair comparison, right? The Sidhe are often compared to or associated with the fae. They're certainly part of the fae. That's definitely true. And they also live underground, specifically under the burial mounds found in Ireland. So you see these mounds, and that is supposed to be underneath where the Sidhe dwell. And they say at night, these mounds rise up on pillars, and they're actually there out in the open, and they dance and they sing and they play music and all this kind of stuff. They even have a hierarchy of courts. Their king is supposed to be someone named Oberon. King Oberon is king of the Sidhe. And what's interesting about this is that now in this folklore you have a blending of Irish and Scottish, because often the Sidhe are associated with the Seelie court, and the idea of a Seelie and unseelie court, fae courts, are more of a Scottish thing than they are an Irish thing. Over the years, these two things have kind of blended together, and we see the Sidhe associated with the Seelie court. All in all, they're friendly people. There's no real, like, a lot of fae lore, especially particularly around Scotland and Ireland and the British Isles. There's always some sort of sinister slant to these people. Not so with the Sidhe. They play music, they party, they dance. You know, if they invite you, it's considered a great honor. You should never refuse an invitation. You don't want to insult them. I haven't really seen what happens if you insult them. Probably nothing good, but they don't seem like sinister. Now, if they offer you food, you're not supposed to accept any food or drink because it's supposed to be charmed. And I think then we get into these situations where, you know, you might have someone that's invited to a Sidhe party and they disappear for 20 years. That sort of nonsense, right? But overall, they're not a sinister people. There's no dark side to them at all. They're just having a good time under those mounds. Now, before I get into the other aspect of this video, the other big part of the lore, and the second creature, if I can even call them that, the beings, those names seem too weak for really who they are. If you're enjoying this video, please smush that like button, and as always, subscribe, please. It helps me out tremendously. It helps put my video in front of other viewers, and that's what I want to do, is reach as many viewers as possible, so thank you so much. Now, the other being associated with the Sidhe, of course, is the Tuatha De Danann. Now, the Tuatha De Danann are, in short, the old gods of Ireland. They had a god of love, a god of the sea, a god of the hunt, god of nature, god of fire, like all these different gods. Morrigan, many people have heard of the Morrigan, harbinger of death, goddess of death. Also considered a psychopomp, if you know that word. It's a crazy word, psychopomp. What else is a psychopomp? The Valkyries were psychopomps. What does that mean? Psychopomp is someone that chooses the dead or foresees the death of others. Psychopomps, right? So these were the gods and goddesses of Ireland. And I'm not going to do, this is mostly supposed to be about the Sidhe, so I'm not going to do a big deep dive on the Tuatha De Danann themselves. But Suffice it to say that they lived in around Ireland, and they were the big kahunas in Ireland for a long time until they lost this great battle, and they were driven from the land into Otherworld. So what is Otherworld? Sometimes it's spoken of as a faraway island to the west. Sometimes it's spoken of like another plane of existence, another world. And sometimes it's just underground, which happens to be under those same mounds. And in the writings of Lady Jane Wilde and Lady Gregory, we see when they've done their research on ancient Irish folklore that they discovered that, according to legends, the Sidhe are the remnants of the Tuatha De Danann, as if the gods and goddesses dwindled down and became the Sidhe. Kind of depressing, as much as I love the Tuatha De Danann. But that's kind of the folklore. Now, incidentally, Lady Jane Wilde, if that last name sounds familiar, that's Oscar Wilde's mother. I just thought that would be an interesting tidbit to throw out there. And she was a wondrous historian who did tons of research in the 1800s on Irish folklore and legends, and she dug up a lot of stuff. But here is where things get a little batty. Even among Lady Jane Wilde's tales, her own written words, she describes the Tuatha De Danann, and thereby the Sidhe, as fallen angels. A very Christian slant to it. And why is that? Well, of course, the original Irish who worshipped the Tuatha De Danann were pagans. This is pre-Christian Ireland, right? When Christianity came, the old legends were not destroyed as much as they were changed, and they were inserted into a Christian narrative. So the Tuatha De Danann were no longer seen as gods. They were seen as sort of heroes who worshipped gods and were Christians themselves. Keep in mind that Tuatha De in Irish means tribe of gods, but I digress. So now you have a situation where we have these old Irish legends that are affected by a Christian narrative, and the original legends, the original pre-Christian legends, do not exist. So what are we dealing with here? We have an overabundance of all these legends about the Tuatha De Danann and the Sidhe, and they say that the Sidhe are the dwindled remnants of the Tuatha De Danann, but then they speak of them as fallen angels. So here is where the video takes a bit of a sharp turn, and it's up to you to figure out what's what in terms of what you believe, or if you're a writer, what you want to do with the Sidhe or even the Tuatha De Danann in your own works. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to dissuade anybody. It's the idea that the Sidhe are the Tuatha De Danann is overwhelmingly abundant in the lore. There's not a lot of conflicts here, you know. The conflicts that kind of exist are in sort of the mounds themselves. When the Tuatha De Danann left for Otherworld, the mounds were supposed to be a gateway to Otherworld, and the Tuatha De Danann is supposed to remain in Otherworld and be there today. Other legends say that it's not a gateway, it's actually physically there. They're literally inside the mound, and they're not the Tuatha De Danann, they're the Sidhe. So that's the big conflict, is that you do have legends that say the mound is a gateway, and other legends that say the mound is the home. And that's sort of the conflict there, despite the massive amount of folklore that supports the idea that Sidhe are the dwindled remains of the Tuatha De Danann. Oh, okay. So, again, I would encourage you to do a little bit more research. This is not a video on the Tuatha De Danann, and I do want to keep this brief. But look up the writings of Lady Gregory, look up the writings of Lady Jane Wilde, and dig into the lore and see what you can pluck out and what you discover. And if you're a writer, you need to basically figure out what's cool, what makes sense for your story. Does it make sense that the Tuatha De Danann no longer exist, or maybe they do exist, or the Sidhe exist, or there's this big confusion that the Sidhe are really the Tuatha De Danann and their powers aren't dwindled at all. Once we get into the narrative space, for us as writers, we can make anything happen. We can change the lore. We can take from mythology and make it how we want it to be for our set. For example, there are book series out there. There's tons of book series out there that depict the Tuatha De Danann. Two of them that come to mind off the top of my head are the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearn, in which the Tuatha De Danann are definitely still alive and not dwindled into Sidhe. And then there's the Clash of Goddesses series by S.D. Houston. Again, more of the Tuatha De Danann, which is awesome. In my own works, The Unlife of Lisa Cooper and that world, the Tuatha De Danann and the Sidhe are different people and they coexist. So make them your own. I've always been an advocate of this. If you're a fantasy fiction writer, take what is out there in the existing lore, mythology, what have you, and make it your own. That's what Creature Spotlight is all about. Digging into a little bit of the lore, shaking it up a little bit, and making it your own. It's a place to start. All right, so that about wraps it up. The Sidhe, partying, happy, dancing, music-loving remnants of the Tuatha De Danann. I don't know. It feels like a depressing fate for me. But hey, I guess they're partying it up and living their best lives. What are you going to do? I mean, they take lemonades and make lemons. I don't know. But that didn't make any sense. But what does make sense is smooshing that like button if you like this video. And as always, please subscribe. I post most Thursdays. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm always going to forget that one. But I'm there. And check out jmchaley.com, by the way. I just updated my entire site. It looks pretty cool. It's got a lot of new art. If you want to check out The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, you can do so from my webpage, or you can just do a search on it on Amazon.com. The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill is also available. My short story, you can find that on my website, and you can find that on Amazon.com, and it's also listed on Goodreads. Holy crap, you guys. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.